My name is Stone McShane, and I work here in the facilities department. I told, well, let's start over. I'm trans, so when I was in the seventh grade, I had told a friend of mine that I was a lesbian. And the next day, she told everybody in the neighborhood, and so I had to beat her up until she took it back. Because I got the message very quickly that that was not a good thing to be. So I did nothing with that information for quite a while. And in the meantime, I started drinking pretty heavily. And finally, when I was a junior in high school, I woke up one day and the last thing I had remembered was sitting at the kitchen table on Friday night with my family, and it was Monday morning. And I decided to stop drinking. I decided that that part of my life was supposed to be the best time of my life, and I wanted to be able to remember what the best time of my life was. So I stopped drinking, but I didn't do anything about my sexuality or my gender, and I just kind of stifled it for a long time until my father got sick. Growing up, my mom would constantly say things like, "Why can't you be more like your sister? Why can't you wear dresses? You look like a linebacker, you dress like a linebacker." And while I was hearing this message, I was hearing the message from my father, "Leave her alone, she's fine the way she is. Leave her alone, she's fine the way she is." And then when he passed away, there was nobody telling me that anymore. And I was pretty lost for a while. And I ended up moving to New England, something that I had always wanted to do from when I had vacationed up here as a kid. And found my way, found other gay friends, found just a family up here. And finally, I met somebody else who was trans, and things started to make sense. And I started my transition actually pretty late for most people. I was 38. And I didn't do things the way you were supposed to because I had my own money, and so I wasn't going to let somebody tell me that I had to live a certain way for a certain amount of time before I could do anything. I paid for my surgery and had my top surgery when I wanted to have it done, and I went on hormones when I wanted to go on hormones. And since that time, I've actually reconnected with my family in a much better way, and my family knows who I am. So my mother still doesn't call me Stone, but she is aware and will say things that I remind her more and more of my father, which makes me feel great. And I love that I have been able to reconnect with my family because I know who I am now. When I was drinking, pretty much for a number of years there, I mean, I had started drinking alcohol pretty young, and it was okay in the family to drink alcohol. And then when I started to drink heavily without people knowing. There were 3 times during that time period that I actually tried to commit suicide. One of the last times was I had taken a bunch of my mother's heart medication, and I just took a bunch of stuff, went up to my room, and fell asleep. And woke up, I think it was like 2 days later, and nobody had noticed. And that was even more, I felt even lower at that point, that nobody had even thought to check on me, I was non-existent in the family. And that was partly my fault, because I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. I didn't want anybody to know who I was, because I didn't know who I was, and who I thought I was didn't seem like a good person, didn't seem like what you were supposed to be. And then that's when the drinking actually got even worse. And I'm not, I guess, just, the wanting to remember things, even painful things, was important to me. So that I could look back and say how far I've come, and that I made things better for myself. It wasn't some outside source. It wasn't, oh, if I lose weight, I'm gonna feel better about myself, or if I'm in a relationship, I'm gonna feel better about myself. I did things, that I stopped drinking, and that in and of itself made it better for me. And just, being able to look back and know that there were good times and there, were crappy times, but because I lived through it and can make my own choices now, then they weren't as bad as what I thought they were at that time. My life now, I'm 46. I have my own condominium here in Boston, and I work here at Simmons, and I do what I want to do now. And it's kind of funny, like when you're a kid, you're thinking, oh, when I grow up, I'm gonna, things are just different when you're an adult. And they are and they aren't, because there's some things that, you always have to do. Like, unless you work for yourself, you always have a boss. So it's kind of like having a teacher in high school. There's somebody that gives you things that you have to do, and you don't really have a choice about it. You just kind of have to do it. But, you can find a job that you enjoy doing, so it doesn't matter that somebody's telling you what to do, because it's something you want to do. But then when I leave here, I can go home to my own place. I can have company over if I want, or if I don't want to, I can be in my own space. I love to bake. I love to cook. I like to sew. I paint. I ride my motorcycle. So I finally got to the point in my life where I can pick the things that I want to do that bring joy into my life. And it's just wonderful to be at that place where you can do that. And no, I can't do everything I want to do, because money sometimes has to play into that factor. Responsibilities have to play into that factor. But for the most part, now I'm not influenced by somebody else saying dress this way, or you can't do that because you're a trans man and trans men don't sew, or trans men don't make quilts, or men don't cook, men don't bake. I do what I want to do, and I don't let other people influence that anymore. I don't have a significant other. I have a good group of friends here in Boston, and then I am one of 5 children in my family, and I have one sister in particular who is very supportive of me, and she has 3 children and now 4 grandchildren, and her 3 kids are all very supportive of me. I would say one of the best days that I have ever had was when my oldest niece got married, and she sent me a thank you card, and it was the first piece of mail that I ever got from a family member addressed to Stone McShane. And the thank you card said, you know, thank you, Uncle Stone, for coming to my wedding and stuff. So I would have to say, like, even though they're not local, they are probably the biggest support in my life right now. I would have missed living in New England, because I love New England. I love the winters and I love the fall. And I would have missed meeting my nieces and my nephew, which would have been devastating when I think about it. Yeah, they're pretty special people, and I'm really glad that I know them and know their kids. And I think for me, I've been able to, I was really close to my father, probably closer than my siblings were, because my father retired when I was 9 years old. So for me, he was really different, because he was home more, and we just had more of a fun relationship. And I've been able to share that with my nieces and my nephew, and I don't think that they would have gotten that from their mother, because that was not the relationship that she had with my father. Hang in there, and try and find that one person who, can be that voice that says, leave him alone. He's fine the way he is. Because I really think that everybody has somebody that feels that way. That they know that you're fine the way you are, and that there is nothing wrong with who you are. And you just got to find that person to help you get over this hump, to where you get to the point where you can make your own decisions and live the life that you want to live. It really does get better, and you can make it better yourself.